Welcome to Chapter 12. We are going to be looking at some places in the western region of our country. You can see this long yellow strip on our map. That is the Rocky Mountains. We're going to be visiting there very first thing, somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. Then we have number 2. We'll be visiting this area that's marked in light orange. That's the Great Basin. It's a low area in the west. And we're going to visit the center of that. And then number 3 is over farther toward the coast in the Central Valley of California. And if you check the other side of the page, you can see some pictures of those places that we are going to visit. Rocky Mountains, Great Basin, and California's Central Valley, where they grow lots of yummy fruits and vegetables. So let's go ahead and get started with our reading together. You've been hiking uphill for a long time. Now you are so far up the side of the mountain that there are no longer any trees growing along the trail. You know that you are not far from your goal. As you finally reach the top of the mountain, you take a look around. The peaks of other mountains rise to the north, south, and west. To the east, plains stretch as far as you can see. It is a clear day. You can see into the distance many miles away. You smile. You have hiked to the top of Pikes Peak. Just a quick comment before we go on reading. Remember, these are the things we've talked about at school. This is our focus. This is places we're going to be reading about. And here we have our vocabulary, those important words to put into part of our memory for this particular chapter. Next page, the Rocky Mountains is our title. I'm going to try to see if I can make that smaller. I can't, so I'll just have to move the book as we go. Pikes Peak in Colorado is one of the most famous peaks in the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains are the largest mountain system in North America. The Rockies, as they are often called, are made up of a number of smaller ranges. Together, these ranges extend more than 3,000 miles from New Mexico north through Canada and into Alaska. In some places, the Rockies are 350 miles wide. The highest peaks in the Rockies rise more than 14,000 feet above sea level. The Rocky Mountain states include Colorado, which I know a bunch of you have been to, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Sammy, and Montana. The Continental Divide is an imaginary line, see if we can get focused, that runs along the crest of the Rocky Mountains. Is it a real line? No. It's an imaginary line along the very top of the mountains. Rivers on the east side of that line flow toward the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. Rivers on the west side flow west toward the Pacific Ocean. So if you imagine the Rocky Mountains, let's see if here's a whole row of Rocky Mountains, and the Continental Divide is an imaginary line that goes kind of across the peaks of those mountains. When rain begins to fall, and it's falling all among the mountains, any rain that falls just on this side of the peak will flow this way toward the Atlantic Ocean. But if it falls on this side, it will come down the mountain and it will flow this way toward the Pacific Ocean. That's what the Continental Divide is. Most of the Rocky Mountains are covered with forests. However, most trees will not grow above a certain elevation. Remember, elevation is how high up something is from the earth. This line of elevation is called the timberline. That's where trees won't grow up higher on the mountains than that. Many Rocky Mountain peaks rise above the timberline. Most of these high peaks are covered with snow year-round. Many animals live in the Rocky Mountains. The forests are home to black bears and grizzly bears, mountain lions, elk, mink, and many other creatures. Chipmunks, coyotes, and moose live in the mountain valleys, and fish are plentiful in mountain streams. Even above the timberline, mountain goats and bighorn sheep make their homes. The people who live in the Rocky Mountain states make use of the area's many natural resources, such as minerals, ranch lands, and timber. By the way, that's an elk. Tourism is also important to the Rocky Mountain economy. Many people visit the Rockies every year to hike, ski, and climb mountains and enjoy the scenery. Page 370. Trying to wait and see if we can get it in focus. Okay, here we go. Yellowstone National Park is the oldest national park in the world. It was established in 1872. The park covers more than 2.2 million acres of the northwest corner of Wyoming and includes parts of Idaho and Montana. Yellowstone is famous for its many natural attractions such as mountains, canyons, waterfalls, lakes, forests, and wildlife. By far, Yellowstone's most popular points of interest are its geysers and hot springs. A hot spring is a pool of water heated by forces beneath Earth's surface. A geyser is a type of hot spring that erupts, shooting hot water into the air. There are more than 10,000 hot springs and geysers in Yellowstone. One of the most famous geysers in the park is Old Faithful, which erupts every 45 to 110 minutes. Each time Old Faithful erupts, it sends a stream of boiling water more than 100 feet into the air. I'm sure some of you have been there to Yellowstone National Park and seen that happen. Pretty impressive. Why does Yellowstone have so many geysers and hot springs? Part of the park is located over a hot spot in Earth's crust. According to scientists, a hot spot occurs where magma or molten rock lies close to Earth's surface rather than deep underground. This magma heats groundwater that rises to the surface, causing geysers and hot springs. Yellowstone National Park is also a place where wildlife can roam free. No one may hunt animals within the park, although fishing is allowed. As a result, many animals native to the West live within the boundaries of the park. Bison, which are also called buffalo, bison and buffalo, same thing, are plentiful in the park. Elk, which we saw on the other page, and moose also live within the park. Black bears, grizzly bears, and wolves are among the animals' wildlife. Watchers come to Yellowstone to view. In 1988, by the way, that was the year my daughter was born. In 1988, a large portion of the park was burned in a series of wildfires. Although many acres of forest were burned, by the next year the forests were showing signs of new growth. Let's check the picture out. There's the fire going on, at least billowing smoke. We can't see the flames. And here's the new growth beginning to come up among the burned out trees. The fires and the forest recovery have given firefighters and scientists a chance to study the effects of wildfire in the West. Then we're moving over to the Western Mountain Ranges. We talked a bit about the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains extend right here through Montana. They come down through this state called Wyoming, and they come into Colorado, and a little bit actually into the top part of New Mexico. So New Mexico is not a part of our western states, and that's why it's not shown colored. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some of these mountains. If you think about the Pacific Ocean and the edge of our continent, there's some mountains that are really close to there. We're going to talk a bit about the Cascades, the Sierra Nevada, and some of these mountain ranges here. So I have to move that down, but you can be looking in your book as we read. The Rocky Mountains are not the only mountains in the West. Some mountain ranges, such as the Sierra Nevada, which extends through eastern California and western Nevada, are similar to the Rockies. High, rugged mountains with several peaks that rise higher than 14,000 feet above sea level. Other western ranges, such as Washington's Olympic Mountains, lie along the Pacific coast. So once again, here's the Sierra Nevada. They're similar in height to the Rocky Mountains. And then we have Olympic Mountains. They're right here in Washington State. And those are along the Pacific coast. Still other western mountain ranges such as the Cascade Range, and that's right in here, coming down this direction, in Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, and the Aleutian Range in Alaska. Here we have Alaska, and you can see here's the Aleutian Islands, and we have the Aleutian Mountains in Alaska. These are Aleutian Mountain Range. They all have volcanoes. A volcano is a mountain with an opening through which ash, gas, and lava are forced. Lava, like magma, is molten rock. Magma that rises and flows on Earth's surface is called lava, which we've already studied that earlier. And you're familiar with all of that, but that's where some of our volcanoes are in these mountain ranges here, and here, and here. All the mountains of Hawaii are volcanoes. That's interesting, isn't it? All the mountains in Hawaii are volcanoes. The chain of islands formed as volcanoes rose from the ocean floor. Hawaii's Mount Kilauea is one of the world's most active volcanoes. We come back to our map, look down at the bottom here of our page. Here's Hawaii, and you can see each one of these shows some of our mountains, and all of those are volcanoes. Cool picture here of the Sierra Nevada mountains, really sharp peaks. So the Rockies are a large system of mountains that support many kinds of plants and animals. We read about a whole bunch that love to live there. Attractions at Yellowstone National Park: geysers, hot springs, and lots of wildlife. Remember the difference between geysers and hot springs. Geysers burst from the ground and put well, let's go right back here. They erupt, that's the word I'm looking for, instead of burst. They shoot the hot water into the air. And then the hot springs are very hot, but they bubble to the surface and they stay in a pool. And the West has a lot of mountain ranges, and we covered the mountain ranges. Olympic Mountains, let's see if we can go focus. Olympic Mountains in Washington, Cascades mostly in Oregon, Sierra Nevada here in California, Aleutian Mountains in Alaska, and the Hawaiian Mountains are all volcanoes. If you have time and you're one of those that wants to do something extra, check out some of those things online and find out some interesting facts about them. You can always make a PowerPoint or a slides presentation to share. That's something cool to do if you're looking for something extra to do. Or some of the animals that live in those regions. Have a good one.